Ni no Kuni is a game about a boy who loses his mom. He's then magically whisked away on an adventure through another world to save her. Your main goal? To defeat the evil Shada. But there are loads of other things you can do. You can fix NPCs' broken hearts. You can take on quests by talking to flashing blue dots on your map. You can take on bounties by going to the quest store. You can create the very best items and equipment through alchemy, that is, assuming you have the correct ingredients. You can build the greatest monster by recruiting one with a double celestial sign, feed it food to give it a limited number of marginal stat boosts to specific stats, a la Pokemon's vitamins, create via alchemy the best equipment, use gems to teach it the best tricks, grind it to level 99 before morphing it, then grind it to level 99 again before morphing it to its final form, and grind it to level 99 again. Oh, there's a casino and Battle Coliseum too. Wait. What game are we talking about again? Oh right, Ni no Kuni, the game that put tons of effort into setting itself apart with a beautiful art design and fantastic soundtrack. And yet, here we are, trudging through tired old RPG tropes. As wonderful as certain aspects of the game are, Ni no Kuni has a problem. Level 5 is afraid their game might be too simple. So they slap on extra monster growth mechanics, throw in numerous side quests that have little to no effect on the world. They even reanimated the game corner that Game Freak brought out back and shot. But it's not just level 5. There's undue complexity in almost any game. Chibi Robo Zip Lashes, Roulette Wheel level select, Luigi's Mansion, Dark Moon's open world, chopped into mission-sized pieces and needless gem collectibles, Fez's cryptic puzzle solutions that are found outside the game, Kingdom Hearts 3D's Animal Raising Sim, all of Skyward Sword, and every Pokemon game has something. Contests, musicals, Pokestar Studios, photo clubs. All these systems are designed to make the game feel bigger than it actually is, thus it feels like you're getting more bang for your buck. But what if a game were simple? Would that work, or would it just make it bad? I'm Lens of Truth, and I want to take a look at the viability of simplicity in fully functional, fully realized, fully priced, fully full video games using a few PS1 classics. In Crash Bandicoot, Naughty Dog keeps Crash's movements simple. The D-pad moves Crash, obviously, and he can only run one speed. Because of the limitations of the D-pad in regards to direction, all levels and platforms are laid out northeast, south, and west. Then there's the spin, Crash's main mode of attack. It can be used to break open boxes, defeat enemies, and spin platforms to the right position. And then there's the jump, where height depends on how long you hold X. You'll use the jump to clear gaps, pop enemies on the head, and break boxes. And that's it. I literally explained the core mechanics of Crash in a couple sentences. Now that's simple. And the beauty of that simplicity is apparent right away. Naughty Dog takes these mechanics and creates a wide variety of levels around them. Insanity Beach introduces the 3D style levels and basic obstacles and enemies, which is expanded in Jungle Rollers, where the titular rollers are giant stones that roll back and forth to squish you. Add in some roller pit combos and things start to get interesting. And later in Rolling Stones, there are moving and falling platforms from a previous level thrown in the mix. Boulders is the first of the infamous run towards the screen levels and introduced those moving platforms mentioned earlier. Upstream is more treacherous. Set over a river, you die if you fall in. The Great Gate is a 2D level that sees Crash scaling a village wall, complete with its own obstacles and platform hazards. 2D returns again in Native Fortress, where various combinations of the flame, spike, enemy, and slippery platform test what you've learned. Hog Wild is a hog riding level. The hog auto runs and you can move side to side and jump. And of course, Papu Papu is a boss level. Now here's the thing, all this is just the first island. In the second and third islands, there are underground temples, ancient ruined vistas, high rope bridges, grungy factories, service corridors, dark generator rooms, toxic sewers, slippery castle exteriors, pitch black castle corridors, and castle laboratories. Naughty Dog created this simple yet enjoyable control scheme so that when they introduce new enemies and obstacles, it never feels cheap. Each and every one revolves around Crash's moveset, and Naughty Dog never uses the same level theme more than twice, so no challenge ever feels repetitive. I just wouldn't recommend going for all the gems. If you want to play the 2 extra levels, there's a cheat code for that. Now compare that with its successor. After the first game, Naughty Dog greatly expanded Crash's abilities, which adds complexity. This decision, in my opinion, changed Crash for the worse. Right away in Crash 2, you can crouch, crawl, slide, slide jump, and body slam. If they had stopped at one new ability, preferably the slide and slide jump, there would have been a natural progression to Crash's abilities. The entire game could have centered on those new, yet familiar actions, but they didn't. The problem with these other abilities is that they're slow or pace breaking, and don't add anything of value. The body slam is literally only used to break body slam boxes. None of this added complexity really complements the core gameplay established in the original, and often completely breaks the pace of the game. Spyro also has a simple control scheme. In Spyro the Dragon, you move with the D-pad again, although the abundance of wide platforms to stand on encourage moving diagonally as well. Still jump with X, but while in the air, if you press X again, you begin to glide to cross gaps and reach distant platforms, and you can cancel the glide in midair with triangle. Spyro has 2 attacks. His first is a charge, which combines running and ramming. It's fast, though it can be a little hard to control, and can be used to defeat all small enemies and destroy most containers. Big enemies, however, are a no-go. The other attack is a flame breath, which can only defeat enemies without armor, including those big ones, and destroys the other containers that charging can't. From here, Insomniac follows Naughty Dog's design, vary obstacles and enemies to test mastery of mechanics, which still are simple, but expanded because whereas Crash Bandicoot is a 3D platformer, Spyro the Dragon is a 3D collectathon. His movements need to revolve around exploring an open, yet dense 3D area, thus the glide and the charge, and the dual attacks ensure that enemy encounters aren't so monotonous. Insomniac takes Spyro through 6 worlds, each with 4 levels plus a flight challenge. You'll have to find high points to glide to new areas, defeat baddies using the appropriate attack, and collect lots of gems. You'll also save dragons, but most of them are on the beaten path. Oh, and you'll encounter 2 power-ups, the Supercharge, which can defeat all enemies and break all containers, and the Super Flame, which can defeat all enemies and break all containers. Now contrast this with Rare's Donkey Kong 64, another 3D platformer, however that game is a hodgepodge of abilities. More abilities equals complexity. Each playable Kong moves like an addled Mario. They can run, attack, jump, and backflip, and each has their own gun, musical instrument, and 2 special attacks. Each Kong collects their own set of bananas and golden bananas. The levels are open, but very sparse, so that while movement greatly follows Super Mario 64, the level layouts just don't complement that. Since the base mechanics are so weak, and each Kong has a number of unique abilities, the levels are forced to add difficulty only by getting bigger and bigger. The final game I want to look at isn't as widely regarded as the classic. Regardless, Klonoa Door to Phantomile is really good, and it gives an example of layered simplicity. Klonoa is a 2.5D platformer, so 2D platforming in a 3D world, meaning movement is limited to right and left on the D-pad. Pressing the X button jumps, pressing and holding it jumps and hovers, much like a shorter version of Yoshi's jump and hover. And lastly, Klonoa can fire a wind bullet, which can activate switches and, much more importantly, grab enemies. Here's where the second layer comes in. There are 2 options for using this captured enemy. You can either throw it to hit switches, break eggs for collectibles, or kill other enemies, or you can do a double jump, which by the way prevents you from hovering until you unload your enemy. This mechanic is great because it's so versatile. Double jumping gets you to higher ledges, obviously, but it also throws the enemy downward to hit switches, eggs, and other enemies. This creates an interesting dynamic where you can drop an enemy on a target and reach a high ledge. And the double jump can be chained too. Double jump up to another enemy, grab it, and double jump again, possibly pegging a switch in the process. There is one catch. Holding an enemy prevents Klonoa from running through tight passages, so you really have to think about where to grab an enemy to proceed through the level. So the mechanics exist in 2 distinct modes, with and without an enemy, sometimes toggling back and forth in quick succession, like when chaining double jumps. The game admittedly has fewer levels than the previous games with 14 plus a bonus challenge level, but the levels are different from Crash and Spyro. Each vision in Klonoa has a series of puzzles to be solved, usually mixed with platforming challenges. Layouts vary. Usually it's a straight path from beginning to end with a side trip here or there for a key. Other levels are more open, with multiple paths to take from the start, and the player is left to figure out what to do, especially for those hunting down the collectibles. This dungeon-like design brings depth to those levels, shoring up the lower level count. The only game that really comes to mind to compare with Klonoa is Yoshi's Island. Puzzle solving, collectibles, capturing enemies. However, I haven't played the game in years and would probably just end up putting my foot in my mouth, so I'll leave that comparison up to you. Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and Klonoa Door to Phantomile are great examples of full-length games based off a simple design. And that's not to say that examples are limited to the PS1, that's just what I have the most recent experience with. Many pre- and post-PS1 games share similar characteristics. And AAA game developers should take notice. A map full of quest dots does not a full game make. Indie developers have thrived off simplicity for years. Alright, just a final note. Simplicity is not the only way to create a well-designed game, obviously. For example, in Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, Spyro gets more abilities. He can hover, swim, climb ladders, and do a head bash move. And the new playable characters in Year of the Dragon introduce new methods of exploring and traversing Spyro-esque worlds. Final Fantasy XIII-2 introduces quests and optional time periods which, together, create this fantastic loop. The quests provide CP, so they're a preferable alternative to grinding, but some quests require you to unlock optional time periods in which you'll need to do a little exploring. And when you unlock a time period, inevitably while exploring, you'll unlock more quests. And you take these on because, hey, they reward you with more CP, so you don't have to grind. And to complete these quests, you'll need to explore another time period. You get the idea. And while I have little experience with this genre, immersive sims allow you to build a character with certain abilities, and allow you to tackle challenges in numerous ways. See Mark Brown's video, The Comeback of the Immersive Sim, for more on that. Alright, thanks for watching. This is my first ever video, so hopefully it turned out alright. All game footage was provided by other YouTubers, so thanks to them, and links in the description. Since it's my first video, I don't have anything else for you to watch, so instead I'll recommend something from my favorite channels. Mark Brown analyzes game design in his Game Maker's Toolkit and Boss Key series, and JonTron is just hilarious.